Hello everyone. In this video, we will continue on our exploration of the Chicago citation style. There are two methods to consider when citing sources using the Chicago Manual of Style 17th edition. Number 1, notes and bibliography, and number 2, the author date system. Of these two types, this video will consider the latter and provide a brief overview of the author date system, a form that is often used in the social sciences and sciences. It is distinguished by the use of in-text citation using parentheses, whereas the note system incorporates footnotes or endnotes. Again, the Chicago Manual of Style 17th edition is an excellent reference for citing using this method. If you find yourself taking a liking to Chicago, which may be likely for many of you, this book might be a worthwhile investment. First, it is important to grasp the formatting expectations of the author date papers of Chicago style. As always, we need to first consider the title page. Title pages should generally consist of the following: a centered title, approximately 1/3 of the way down the page, and then the name and class information should follow several lines below. As always, please consult with your instructor first to confirm if a title page is required. If it is not stated whether or not a title page is required or not necessary in your rubric or syllabus, to play it safe, always include a title page. However, if instructors do not want a title page, they will usually end up stating this explicitly in the assignment rubric or course syllabus. And then don't forget to always include your name and your student number, course information, and date on the title page. These are important details that your professor needs to keep track of each student. Double space each line of the title page as well. And then if a title page is not necessary, but instead your professor wants to include these details on the first page of the writing text, then the title should be centered at the top of the first page, and then your student number, course information, and date should be placed in the header of this page. When it comes to understanding the different forms of text, you should always use a readable plain font. I always recommend Times New Roman 12 point. And all the font should be double spaced unless you are told otherwise. As well, a small detail that is often forgotten, page numbers should always be used. Place page numbers in the top right header. And lastly, if possible and when possible, minimize the use of capitalization, except in the case of proper nouns, names, and titles. In these instances, capitalization is expected and generally common sense. Okay, so now we can briefly review how the in-text citations look for the author date system. So use an in-text citation each time you incorporate an idea that is not your own. Using the author date system, each in-text citation should then include the last name of the author, the year of the publication, and this should all be in parentheses at the end of the clause or at the end of the sentence and following the punctuation. References. So references, or at least a reference page, is an expected component of your academic writing and should be placed on a separate page following the conclusion of your body of writing. It should be titled appropriately as references or works cited, centered and bolded at the top of the page. List your references alphabetically by last name, and then use hanging indentation if a second line should be needed. You will come to understand what these look like in references in the examples in the next few pages. Every author name must be listed in the reference section, so do not use at all in the reference page. For citations with multiple authors, there is an important system that should be followed. So the first author's name should be listed as last name and then first name, and every additional author to follow lists them as first name and then last name. As always, double check that every in-text citation has a corresponding reference to match, And then in the case if you are using electronic books, journal articles, or web pages, incorporate a DOI or a hyperlink that readers can access as well. So referencing examples. The few slides above, or at least ahead of this particular page, might have been a little bit confusing when it comes to understanding how to incorporate these guidelines into the actual referencing and citation. First and foremost, you can review these pages to understand the different examples for books, for a chapter in an edited book, for a journal article, for a website, as well as for social media. It is likely that these types of sources are going to be most commonly used by you, and they do have a particular system that you do need to follow. Keeping in mind, it is important to pay attention to when italics are used, and also when direct quotations are used, and whatnot. It is highly recommended to look through these examples, and in the case that the references or the sources that you are using in your paper are not included in these examples, there are a few additional resources that you can access for further information. First, the Chicago Manual of Style Online is an excellent resource. And then second, as always, OWL Purdue, their online writing lab, has an excellent webpage outlining a number of different source styles that may extend beyond those covered in this little brief review of the Chicago style. I highly recommend always checking these sources before you submit any paper, regardless of how confident that you are. And as always, because we are citing a lot of important information that authors ahead of us have spent countless time and efforts to write and understand and research, we have consulted this information from a few different sources below.